What if the version of Christianity that defined Western civilization for 1,000 years wasn't the original version at all? We're about to explore how the fall of the Roman Empire didn't just end an empire, it completely reforged a religion from the inside out.
So, let's just dive right in with the big question. We all kind of know the story, right? The pagan tribes of Europe, the Goths, the Franks, the Saxons, they all eventually become Christian. But how? I mean, really, how did that happen? The story you think you know is really just the tip of the iceberg.
Because the simple story, the one we usually get in history class, is super straightforward. You've got missionaries showing up, they preach the gospel, and poof, the Germanic peoples just drop their old gods and pick up the new faith. It's presented as this clean, neat swap.
Yeah, well, that simple swap is basically a myth. The historical reality is so much cooler. It's a story of fusion, of adaptation, of blending. The Germanic tribes didn't just accept Christianity, they actively reshaped it, molding it to fit their world and their values.
And this whole incredible process has a name: the Germanization of Christianity. And trust me, this is not just some obscure historical footnote. This is one of the key events that shaped European faith and Europe itself for the next 1,000 years.
So what in the world is Germanization? Okay, the technical definition is a folk-centered, magico-religious reinterpretation of Christianity. It's a bit of a mouthful, I know, but all it really means is that Christian ideas were fundamentally translated, recoded, you could say, to make sense to people whose entire world was built on things like tribal loyalty, warrior honor, and a deep, magical connection to the world around them.
And here's the part that is just mind-blowing. This wasn't some local flavor of Christianity that popped up in a few villages. No. This reinterpreted, Germanized version of the faith became the standard. It became the new normal for all of Western Christendom.
But you have to ask, why was this big fusion even necessary? Why not a simple conversion? Well, it's because the worlds of early Christianity and the Germanic tribes were, in pretty much every single way, polar opposites.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly. I mean, look at this contrast. On one side, you've got early Christianity. It was born in the busy, diverse cities of the Roman Empire. It was often world-rejecting, which just means its main focus was on salvation in the next life. But then, on the other side, you've got the Germanic societies. They were rural, deeply tribal, and totally world-accepting. For them, everything that mattered was right here, right now. Loyalty to your clan, honor on the battlefield, the strength of your community.
So you can see, right? This wasn't just a language barrier they had to cross. It was a reality barrier. Their entire understanding of life and purpose was so different that you couldn't just copy and paste Christian ideas onto their culture. For the faith to actually take root, it had to change. It had to adapt.
Okay, so what did this new, remixed faith actually look like? What do you get when you blend a Mediterranean religion with a Northern European warrior culture?
Well, you get some incredible results. First, you get a new warrior ethos. Christ and the saints, they weren't just seen as holy figures anymore. They were reimagined as divine war chiefs. Second, the idea of sacral kingship becomes central. The king wasn't just a political leader, he was a sacred figure chosen by God, which fit perfectly with their old traditions. And third, you see this rise of what you could call Christian magic. See, to win converts, missionaries had to prove their God was stronger, so they leaned hard into miracles, holy relics, and displays of divine power that could go head-to-head with the magic of the old pagan gods.
And this image, wow, it just says it all. This is the cover of the source material we're looking at, and look at how Christ is depicted as a Germanic warrior holding an axe and a shield. This is not the gentle shepherd from Roman art. This is a powerful, conquering war chief. It's just a stunning example of how a culture can remake a god in its own image.
And make no mistake, this Germanized faith was not just some passing trend. It became the absolute bedrock of medieval Europe, and its influence would echo for 1,000 years. I mean, just think about that. For nearly 1,000 years, from the end of Rome all the way to the Renaissance, this unique cultural fusion was the dominant spiritual and political force in the West. It was the lens through which literally everyone understood their world, their leaders, and their God. But here's where it gets really, really interesting. You can actually see the next 1,000 years of history as one long series of arguments against this Germanized faith. Look at this timeline. By the 11th century, you have major reform movements trying to push back.
Then, bam, the 16th century, the Protestant Reformation explodes, challenging this entire structure. You can even trace this all the way up to the 1960s with the Second Vatican Council, which was, in many ways, still trying to peel back these ancient Germanic layers.
So the huge takeaway here is just incredible. That fusion that happened back in the Dark Ages didn't actually settle anything. It kicked off a 1,000-year-long argument inside Western civilization, a deep, ongoing struggle over what Christianity was really supposed to be.
Which leaves us with one last, really powerful question to think about. How much of our modern world, our ideas about religion, power, even society, was actually shaped not by the original faith from the Middle East, but by this radical reinvention that happened in the forests of ancient Europe? It's a thought that kind of changes how you look at everything. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.